So I used to have a very good rapport with my doctors because they had to try to figure it out with me. And they knew that I knew quite a bit about medicine, so they were happy to help me out. I'm a good patient, you know. I'm pretty easygoing and pretty funny. So, but I have found that since I've come up with those tests, doctors have found that they can charge a fortune for that. We do need to make the medical community non-profit. We need to go back to the family doctor, and we should not have doctors who are tied to the hospital and to the labs, and you do everything. Like in my case, my doctor is tied to Jefferson Hospital, and when she orders a test, she just orders it through Jefferson Hospital and Jefferson Labs, and if I need an x-ray, I go to Jefferson Hospital for the x-ray and things like that. That way the mooks in Jefferson who own Jefferson will sabotage my tests and make it look like I'm fine, and to the point that other doctors can see what they're doing to me and they don't like it, but there doesn't seem to be anything anybody can do about it. But what I have found is, like, I went to Swedish, which is a medical center in Seattle that's owned by the satanic cult or the mooks, and they do a test which I thought up called a myelogram, but they don't do it the way I thought of it. I'm also the one in like if you saw the movie Matrix, that camera that actually what it is a whole bank of cameras that you get into the middle of the person you're taking a picture of gets into the middle of the circle of cameras, and the cameras go off instead of a movie camera where there's several shots, and that's what it is, several shots right in a row, and that's what makes the movie and makes you be able to see the motion. But with this camera you see the motion, but in kind of a 3D thing. So the myelogram is supposed to be that bunch of x-ray machines, and so that the doctor would have a 3D picture of your whatever it is that they want to take the picture of. Well, in Swedish they put the x-ray machine, and they have the machine move, which you can't have the machine move because it's going to blur. If you move your camera when you're taking a picture, you just get a big old blur. So I told them that wouldn't work, but they didn't want to. They wanted to be able to charge for a test that was more sophisticated than what they had available, and that test, that myelogram, they can tell nothing from it. If you've had one, take a look at your test results. You can't see a blessed thing. It's just like a big blur, a big blobby blur. So they also, I think I had figured this out too, that you would need to put dye in the nerve that you are trying to film. So it hurts like hell. And I said, you should really probably put people out for it because it's going to hurt. Well, what they do in Swedish is they don't put you out. They don't give you pain pills. Before, they could give you, a couple of Percocets 20 minutes before, so that when you go in and you get a shot of dye, heavy dye, in your nerve that is already compromised from stress or whatever is giving you the pain, it hurts like torture. Also, the dye that they use, they could use a much lighter viscosity, less viscous dye, but they don't, because the dye that they use is the most painful dye that they can use and still get a picture. Once again, the picture is not even usable. And what Swedish will tell you is that in order that you are a candidate for back surgery, and all their back surgery patients have to have this test, because the doctors have to have something to go by before they take a knife to your back, which makes sense, but it's complete hogwash. It's just bullshit, because it doesn't, like I said, the picture isn't any good. But so the reason that they do this, and this will just make you sick, is so that it hurts so much that you'll want to have surgery. You'll be in so much pain, you'll be begging to die or have surgery. Like, those are your two choices, and you're going to choose surgery if you want to keep living. And so it guarantees that you'll have some kind of surgery, and the surgery that they will give you 9 times out of 10 is also a surgery that I came up with. What I came up with was to drill holes with a little bore, a little thing, in the side parts of your spine, to allow your spinal column a little bit more room. And so if your nerve was pressing inside your spinal column, it takes the pressure off. So that will work, I thought, about 80% of the time, if that is what your problem is. Now, they never did the work. They never tested it or anything. They took that claim that of 80% helping, and like in my case, it wouldn't help. It wouldn't help me. And the doctor still was obligated, because he worked for Swedish, he was obligated to tell me that he had that to offer for me. And I just said, I don't see how that would work for me, because the pressure on my nerve was not near where he would have had to drill the holes. And so it would in fact, he said, you're right, it would in fact make it worse. And I said, well, why do you offer it? If I didn't know as much as I know, I might believe you, because you're the doctor. And he said, because they would fire me if I don't. They make a lot of money. They can charge, they can charge it as though it's surgery. It's back surgery. They'll charge $20,000, and all it is to get that Black and Decker out and a little those things that you put on drills to drill a bigger hole. It goes around, and then you would take the bone out, and you would have a hole, so the drill is not solid piece, it's a round piece, and it's tiny, and evidently it does when it works. If the patient has a problem with their spine, the way in the area where that would work, it does work, evidently. I talked to somebody who had it done, and he said it worked fine, worked great. He felt better as soon as he woke up. So, see, so they're taking my ideas and they are bastardizing them for profit. And like in my case, it would have made it worse. And then he said, then he would offer me another surgery and it would fuse my back, and they would put in a metal rod, and I wouldn't be able to bend my back, but it would take away the pain. And he wasn't even sure that would take away the pain. So, okay, so let's recap. They're going to give you, it's Swedish, they're going to give you a test if you have back pain, a test called a myelogram that is basically torture and done with a dye that will stay in your system and aggravate your nerve to the point that you will not feel better after even if you rest up for a month afterward, you may not feel better. So then they can offer you the first surgery, and that's a $20,000 surgery. And when that doesn't make you feel better, then they can go for the gold and get the $120,000 surgery, where you'll never be able to move correctly again, and will cause all kinds of other problems in your joints and your hips and your knees, because you can't move your back properly. So it's all driven by money. None of it is driven by good medical practice. None of it. It's really frightening. It's really frightening. So when you go to the doctor, then don't always go for the most expensive treatment, because you probably don't need it. And always ask if you can get an x-ray, because an x-ray, once again, is going to be under $100, and a myelogram was like $3,000 or $4,000 and doesn't do you any good. And an MRI, which they might insist on if you're going to have surgery, or they might give you a CAT scan. They're going to give you a test that is going to cost way more than what the test cost them. Once they've bought those machines, the actual test doesn't cost them anything, you know. It just costs it costs them something, but not in the thousands of dollars. That's just all a play. So what we need to do is get a single payer medical insurance, but we need to take the profit out of medicine. And another solution is to open up the medical schools so that each school has about 5 more doctors a year. A big part of the medical school, well, let me go into that on another thing. But my point is, to sum this up, is that you are going to be offered medical tests and medical procedures that you don't need, and you want to get at least one other opinion. And outside, what they'll do is, you want a second opinion, you got to go outside of that whole group. I think mine is called Providence Group, and they're based out of Wyoming or something, Nebraska. But I'm in Washington State, and the Swedish group is in Seattle in Washington State. So you have to find out who your doctor is affiliated with, and then you have to find someone outside of that group and ask around and try to find somebody who who has had that procedure and was real happy with it and was happy with the doctor. And the other thing is, you can go on Rate Your MD and look up doctors. People will go on there and warn you of a terrible doctor, or they'll go on there, I have done this, and give a pat out on the back for their doctor, and you'll have a real good idea. Also, they ask about the staff and other things that you can read about your doctor, and I found that to be a good resource. So go online and Google Rate Your Doctor, and there'll be 2 or 3 other sites that'll have ratings in your area, and that's a good thing. So we don't need all this medicine. We don't. No, I realize that you feel like a real clod if you don't take your kid to the emergency room, but if you don't, if it's something that's going to heal itself and doesn't need stitches, sometimes there's phone numbers that you can call to get medical advice, and they'll tell you whether or not you actually need a doctor. And the other thing is, 90% of the time, you don't need the emergency room. You can call and make an emergency appointment with your doctor if it's during medical hours. The other thing is to wait. If it's still a problem in the morning, then you might want to go to a doctor. If you wait, with my kids, I would wait 3 days if they had a sore throat, because if it's a virus, in 3 days it'll start to be better. On the 3rd day it'll start to get better. Viruses hit you hard early, and then your body starts to fight them, and then they get better and better. If it's a bacterial infection, then it starts slower and builds up and up and up. And bacterial infections can kill you. That's why penicillin was such a great thing, because it used to be that if you got even strep throat, it would turn into scarlet fever, and then you could die or lose your hearing. And strep throat is not something you want to fool around with. But in fact, the swab that they do for the strep throat might not even show up as strep the first day. If you go running in there the first day when they have a tickle in their throat, you might end up back there in another 3 days because it's gotten worse, and you're going to have it retested. If they have a fever with it, that's a good indication that it might be strep. So anyway, if you look in their throats and it's red, or it's that red patchy and white patches, the white patches are the infection. So that's another thing to do. But you don't, if it's a viral sore throat, there's nothing they can do about it anyway. So give the kid tea with honey in it. Honey itself is a good thing. It soothes your throat, and it's antibacterial. So yeah, we're so dependent on doctors that we forget that our bodies have the ability to heal themselves. And I'm not saying don't go and get your broken, you had a broken bone and your bone is sticking out of your flesh. Well, you need a doctor. But 9 times out of 10, you probably don't need a doctor. Once again, we need to get the medical coverage, and we need to keep it for everyone, because we are the only developed nation without medical coverage for our people, our citizens. And that's wrong. That's embarrassing, and it's wrong. So cheer up. God bless. Peace.